This is the most expensive game ever sold by like $500,000.
Heritage Live. And we're going to sell at 1.3 million.
7107.
7107.
That was the moment when graded video games entered public consciousness. I was watching this live, and like many others, we thought, this doesn't make any sense. But that didn't really matter because things had already been set in motion. This sale made headlines. Tons of news outlets covered it, and an awareness for the cost for such collectible video games became common knowledge almost overnight. Not long after, Carl Jobst unloaded a video entitled Exposing Fraud and Deception in the Retro Video Game Market. His video essentially exposed some shady and illegal activity by both Wata Games and Heritage Auctions with strong evidence. And in the months ahead, graded games continued to sell for unsettling prices, and even longtime collectors in the graded video game hobby were puzzled. But this was not something exclusive to video games. During the COVID-19 pandemic, many collectible categories were seeing vast increases in popularity and speculation. Fast forward to 2024. The prices of graded games has generally plummeted, with games selling for less than half of what they previously sold for just months ago.
A Zelda 2, 9.8. $102,000. 2 years later, the same copy, $14.4 thousand. They lost about $90,000 on that.
The bubble had popped, the market had begun to stabilize, and the hype for graded games began to fade. And as a result, many in the gaming community see graded video games as nothing more than a money laundering scheme or a stupid investment. But that's just the thing. Up until now, the graded video game hobby has been heavily associated with financial gain and investment. That's all that's really been talked about. I think the preoccupation with the dollar value of these games has sort of caused a rift between the greater video game community and graded games themselves. And the lawsuits against Heritage Auctions and Wata Games definitely didn't give the hobby a positive image. And during this process, the more intrinsic motives for someone getting their games graded was basically lost and hardly discussed. In this video, I want to share the reasons why grading video games can actually be fun and enjoyable for me and others beyond the dollar value and potential investment. I'll start with something that is common to almost every collectible category, and that's challenge. When it comes to graded collectibles, people are generally not as interested in using their collection as much as they are interested in owning and displaying it. The challenge comes in acquiring something of interest that is difficult to obtain, yet appreciated and intriguing. Some collectibles are designed to be collected, like trading cards, toys, and figures, while others are not, like stamps, rare currency, memorabilia, and artwork. The stuff that wasn't meant to be collected is often more difficult to obtain, and I think sealed video games fall more into the latter category. The statement, "games are meant to be played," is absolutely true, just like comics are meant to be read. But that's the point. When it comes to certain titles and variants of games, it's extremely rare to find them in brand new condition, and it's kind of amazing that they exist. Like, how did this thing stay in this condition? Why wasn't it opened? What's the story behind it? And collecting something you already like, but in a new way, can be refreshing and kind of special. For example, Halo 3, a game which has sold over 13 million copies, has only 346 brand new copies graded by Wata as of March 2024. There is no challenge in buying several copies of complete in-box Halo 3s. But finding it sealed is a rarity. But how many copies of those are first prints, the ones with the "Do Not Sell Before September 25th, 2007 sticker? Well, between the ones printed in Mexico and the United States, there's only 112. When I compare that to another collectible, like a first edition Shadowless Charizard Pokemon card, which is awesome by the way, according to PSA's population reports, there's 4,346 graded copies. There are far fewer first print Halo 3s in brand new condition than there are first print Charizard cards. And that's what I think is really cool about it. There's not that many copies of this game. It's a challenge to find, let alone in excellent condition. And that's not an isolated case. Tons of well-known video games in brand new condition are quite difficult to find, The point I'm trying to make is the relative rarity of some of these titles in their original release still sealed is kind of astonishing. Sealed games are oddities because they were designed to be opened and used, similar to booster packs and toys. From a nostalgic point of view, it's cool to see things in their original form, the same way you would have seen them in the store when they were first released. So whether it's a sealed or complete in box game, the challenge of acquiring them plays a huge role in their interest. Now, you might be thinking you don't need to get these games graded, but grading is kind of necessary. Population reports provided by grading companies allow for the determination of rarity of items. Grading allows for a standardized format of comparison between similar items, and an authority verifying these items' authenticity is needed to allow the market to determine their value. So, if no one cared about determining, sharing, or comparing the condition, potential value, and rarity of these collectibles, there would be no need for grading companies. Perhaps the world would be better off without grading, but who can say? When pursuing collectibles within the greater video game hobby, the condition cannot be ignored. Within game collecting, there's so much variation in terms of condition because of all the various components involved and degree of condition. So to have a factory sealed game or a complete in box after years or even decades in near mint condition is impressive and inherently rare than just having the disc or cartridge. It's not needed to enjoy the game. In fact, you don't need the cartridge or disc nowadays. It's more about the appreciation, fascination, nostalgia for the product itself. This was the condition when it was first released, the way most people first saw the game on store shelves. It's just a different way of enjoying and appreciating games. And for me, there's something special about that, like something from the past has come to the present totally unchanged. Now, there are some games that can be easily purchased in brand new condition, but the challenge of obtaining a perfect grade can become the chase. Tasks like inspecting, cleaning, and shipping the games are enjoyable parts of the whole grading experience as well. It's like I put some effort into the grades that I received, especially if I assembled the components. Honestly, unboxings and discovering the grades is almost my favorite part of the hobby. But condition is simply another layer of challenge and rarity to collecting. But these aren't necessarily required to collect. This is my copy of Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, sealed, but in relatively poor condition, and the lowest graded copy on the population report. This was one of my first games ever graded, and it's a first print copy of the game, something I value more than condition in this case, and there's a bit of nostalgia involved, so it's an important part of my collection. It's not just about condition or rarity or value, it's in a large part subjective. Though not apparent on the surface, the graded games hobby is very nuanced, which leads to and requires some understanding of the manufacturing side of gaming. Variants can be very interesting. I had no idea how many prints and alterations existed for so many games. And learning about this side of the video game industry has been very fun. Did you know the very first print of Tiger Woods 99 for the PlayStation had a video file of a South Park episode on it? It could be accessed from your computer disk drive. Once it was discovered, another print was produced, but with the episode removed. When Microsoft released the Xbox One console in November 2013, some of their launch titles had special cover art bearing the Day 1 2013 banner, which differed from their standard editions. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was released both for the Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Wii U consoles simultaneously. On the original back cover of the Wii U version, there was a massive error for the controller compatibility. Only the Wii U Pro controller and gamepad were actually compatible. Now, these are just a few interesting pieces of information explaining these variants, but because of all these revisions, these games now have provenance, a story behind their origin. It's a little bit of unimportant history, but it's fun to discover and understand how much depth there is in something that once seemed so simple and mundane. It's also another dimension of rarity, which adds to the thrill of chasing something special and unique, but also related to something you may already enjoy and appreciate. In the end, collecting graded video games is very similar to collecting other collectibles.
You know, when it comes to the whole community of video games, let's say, there isn't as much as a taboo thing as much as it is a thing where people take certain time and steps to actually accept something, right? And this happens with all collectibles. It even happens with cards.
It's about looking for items that are meaningful, exciting, rare, intriguing, and in a condition that brings a sense of wonder and marvel. It's cool to see things in their original form, understand where they came from, and see how much people value it in the present. Do these relics of the past hold interest for the world today? Will graded video games hold the same prestige and appreciation like comic books and sports cards? Only time will tell. Overall, graded video game collecting is not just about making money, it's another way for gamers to express, enjoy, and appreciate the things they care about. I think over time, people's opinion on graded games will change. It was bound to get more popular and more well known. It's just unfortunate in the way that this happened. And perhaps over time, it won't be seen as this inherently shallow thing to participate in. Hopefully this video has given you some insight into the minds of those who collect graded games, and maybe has broadened your understanding for the reasons why anyone would get their games graded. For you graded game collectors out there, tell me in the comments why you personally collect graded video games. And if you enjoyed watching this video, please consider subscribing to our channel, like the video, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.